Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket sevens. So in this hand, we have villain 10 who limps. I see he's playing 28-0. He looks passive. His limp and call is basically 100% minus the mid position, where he's actually folded once. His limp first in, pretty wide. 80% on the button. Has not done a pre-flop raise. The question is, how wide is he? So I just kind of said 24, 25% maybe. You note that I am including these big ones. Ace, King, Queen. I have to assume he would have had at least one of these hands previously and would have raised it, but he didn't. He's just been super passive, so he's going to be pretty wide. It's going to fold to me, and I'm just going to attack him with my regular MP raising range, and I raise to 5, and then he calls. So I'm just gonna say that if he limped, he's more than likely calling, unless it's, I would say maybe something like 6-4, or so maybe that limp and fold was a limp. He had a raise and then a 3-bet, and then he folded. Flop comes out, Queen 10-6 with 2 hearts. Villain 10 checks, and note that at this point he has maybe 3 times the pot. So I fired a half pot bet. I think he's fairly wide. Yes, this board can hit him. Definitely in the middle. He could have queens, could have tens. We could also have those. We could also have, straight draws, flush draws. So I kind of think we're about even, running a little bit even. At least that's my thought. So I bet half pot. He calls. The turn was a heart, which actually improved my equity because now I have a heart draw to fall back on. He still has 26.7, and I'm hoping with this bet that perhaps he'll fold Jack 9 hands, 10-9, gut shots, maybe the 10x hands. Would he call a 6? No, if he's folding the 10, he's probably folding the 6s and the 3s, but he might be calling with, let's say, ace jack with the ace of hearts or the jack of hearts. So I bet he calls, and then rivers to king, gives me the flush, he checks, and my thought was I should probably check behind, but I didn't. I went ahead and bet, pushed him in, and he folded, which is unfortunate because we can't see what he's doing. But I want to see what does GTO say on this hand. This guy's not playing. I don't think this guy's playing GTO, but if he is playing GTO, how's our play? I will note that in this hand, I probably missed the fact that he was short stacked pre-flop, and it probably wasn't until the turn of the river, possibly the river, when I realized, oh crud, he's short stacked. Because I'm not sure on the turn if I would have made this bet, because I would think that if I bet 11.4, then if he's gonna play, he should be just shoving all in. Is my thought. So I'm not sure if my turn bet was good. So what does GTO say? I've got it put in. I did say the villain's not going to bet. He's not going to donk unless he's shown aggression previously. So he checks to me. It's on me. We're checking about 2/3 of the time. Looks like we are supposed to be checking here. So I think this goes with the idea that we're fairly neutral. We're probably, our equities are probably running about even. Yep. So his is at like 52. We're at like 48. So as I'm analyzing this board and thinking about his range, I think that board probably helps him more because he's got more of these Broadway cards. He's got a lot of those offsuits, or at least that's what I gave him, a lot of these offsuits. So I think right here we should have checked. We should have checked here with our sevens. I didn't. I bet. And then villain here is going to be calling with. Let's go back to my bets. So we're really targeting over pairs, two pairs, and we're betting some of our sets. We're betting our sixes, but we're just checking tens and queens. So I'm sure those tens and queens are trying to balance all of our checking range so that it's not completely, so that we have more than top pair. I have to be sure that's why we're doing it. So I did bet, and villain ended up calling. He should be calling. Well, he should be check raising with two pair, but he doesn't do that. So I think we're gonna have to. I think if he's passive, he's not going to do any of these check raises. So let's see here. He has bet 1 out of 27. Called C bets 53. He's betting in limped pot 1 out of 17. I bet that's it. That's the one bet. Called C bets. He hasn't raised on the turn. He's bet 1 out of 19. Yeah, he's just totally passive. Totally passive. And I don't think I really have enough information here to justify betting 100% because he folds too much. So I think this is probably a mistake on the flop. So let's assume he does play GTO. He gets a 3. It's a 3 of hearts. That is. He calls with 3 of hearts. He checks again. So his equity is 45%. Our equity improved. I kind of thought that heart improved our equity. So now we're going to be betting most of the time, and we're betting half pot. Of those sevens that I did bet, it looks like I am checking, and those are all of the ones that I had the seven of hearts. So at least my bet made sense because I had the heart. Was I thinking about it at the time? I don't know. This hand was played a while ago, so sometime in February. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. So I don't honestly remember. So he checks, but we are supposed to be betting most of the time. Looks like the 7 of hearts we're 7 of hearts we're checking. Let's see here. 4 hearts. Two hearts is mostly betting. That's going to be a bluff. 3s are going to be bluffs. I think our weak flushes. Some of them are betting, some of them are raising. So probably could go either way. So I did bet, and then villain's going to be calling here. Villain should be calling. I mean, he's calling with pocket pair below the top card. He's calling some with middle pair. I mean, he does have some of these weak hands. He should be raising now. He should be raising, but he's not. And why would you raise? Guess you're raising because you're looking for that flush, and then I'm going to be calling most of the time. So I raise, he calls, and then we get king of hearts. He checks again. Now it's on us, and then we are betting, and we're betting all of our flushes. So I guess if this is our line, it does look like we would be then betting 3 streets with hands as weak as 3 of a kind. So 6s if we picked up the 3s. If we picked up the 3s, we were betting because we picked up trips. We picked up trips. That we weren't bluffing. We picked up trips with the 3s. So we do make that value. we do make that value bet, and we do get him all in at that point. So I'm not sure how he's going to play. So let's change this. Let's get rid of all of these raises and see if it changes what hands we're going to be betting here. We do have some of the 7, so we're betting 7 of hearts small percentage of the time. Yeah, about 18%. So I want to just say he is not going to raise at all, even though he probably should. Pocket pair below the top card. I don't think he's going to fold those. Middle pair, he's probably calling with those. Weak pair, he's probably calling with weak pair. Ace high could be a fold. Okay. Could be a fold. Let's get rid of all of our raises. Yeah, okay. Yeah, flush draw is going to call. Get that. Open-ended straight's going to call. Gut shot, we're going to say he calls. Two card backdoor flush draws. Some of them are calling, some of them are folding. We'll leave those that we already have. So let's run this again, and we'll be back when it's done. So we have it set up. Does it change our bets? Our bets become a little bit more. We're being a little bit more aggressive because we know he's going to be calling a bit more, and that means we're going to be betting more with our 7. So it looks like my flop decision isn't as bad as what it initially looked like. So we bet, he calls, he checks, and now it's on us again, and now we should be checking with our 7s. So if we bet half pot, we do have him raising, and I think we're going to have to fix this to make it a little bit more realistic. So flush, we do have, I mean, he is supposed to be raising. I don't think so. I think he calls. I mean, a passive player like this probably just calls. Sets is going to be worried about the flush. 2 pairs going to be worried about the flush. Over pair is going to be worried about the flush. Top pair with the king is going to be worried about the flush. I think pocket pair below the top card jacks is probably just going to fold. I think the middle pair is probably just going to fold. The weak pair is probably just going to fold now. Ace high is probably just going to fold. No made hands just going to fold. The nut flush draw, though, we're going to say he calls. Second nut flush is calling. Third nut is calling. The weak flush draws, probably just going to fold. Top pair could fold here, but I think we've got a good one. So let's run the solver and we'll be back. All right, big difference here. Went from 28% bet to basically betting almost all of it. So based on his play, we're betting again. We don't have to worry about getting check raised with a lot of hands, which I do think he should have been check raising your hearts, especially your single hearts. Just be aggressive with it. So We do bet. He calls. And then villain checks. And now we should be checking behind a lot. So I kind of agree based on how he plays. His passivity. I think this was probably a bad card. And I do think I probably should have called. But I think in the moment I was thinking, well, if he kept calling with the queen or if he kept calling with the 10, that king's going to be a scare card, and now he's going to likely fold it. So, you know, when we talk about overpair and two pair, you know, queen 10, top pair, he doesn't have a 10 because we folded him out. But the queen. It's not at 2 hearts, it's king of hearts. Sorry, king of hearts is what we had. So he checks. We're still checking behind, but if we bet, we have him calling with middle pair. I don't know if he calls with that. I think that 10 is a scare card, and I think that's going to be enough. If he was calling with the queen, I think he's just going to say, heck with it, I fold. The overpair with the aces might get called, or he could just see it as saying, you know what, that's a horrible run out. It's all flushes. I can't beat it, and only calls with a flush plus. So we'll do this. He folds his middle pair. No. We'll do this. 3 of a kind, he calls. And we'll leave the overpair. We'll try this first. We'll run it and we'll be back. All right, so it was 23%. We're down to 18% bet, so we're betting with less because he's calling with stronger hands. So if he only folds the middle pair, we check behind. What happens if he folds the overpair? The ace. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference because I don't think there's a huge number of combos. So we'll be back. All right, so it was an 18, like almost 19 to 21%, not much. We're still mostly checking. What if he starts folding 2 pair and 3 of a kind? I think now if he's folding 2 pair and 3 of a kind, it makes more sense to start betting with our weaker hands because we're going to buy equity. So like our small pairs, I think it's going to start making more sense to bet with these. And they make up a much larger percentage of his range. So let's run this. All right. So yep, jumped up to 61%. Still looks like sevens. You know, the hearts, we're still going to be checking second. We're betting all of the weak stuff. Only the weak stuff. Our flushes have some showdown value. So we have a flush, we have showdown value, so I guess we check. So it looks like we're still supposed to check. All right, so let's get rid of these again and go back and see how we should have played against this player. So pause it and we'll be back. All right, so against a GTO player, that's what we're going to go. We should be checking our sevens. So let's say that's what we did. And then villain's going to be betting 28% of the time, checking. He checks, so we'll say that he's doing it the right thing by checking. And at that point, even our sevens now should just be checking behind. And I think it's because villain's checking. He's checking some of his pairs. If we bet, yeah, he's going to be calling, but he's only going to be calling with pairs that beat us. And I think it's going to be hard for us to get him off the hands because he will also have some of these draws. I mean, draws, the hearts are going to be small percentage, but he's going to have some of them. Definitely, if we bet, we're probably and if we bet and he calls, we're probably beat. So we check, and then villain's going to bet or check. If he checks, looks like now we can go for a little bit of value. We're going to be betting with our 7, so we get our 1 street on the river. We could bet half pot and go from there. What happens if he leads in this case? we're going to be calling with our 7 of hearts. We would fold the other 7, so we would be calling when we have our flush. What if he bets here? What do we do? Same thing. Looks like we're calling with our hearts. And then if we call with the hearts, if he bets, we're going to be a mixed strategy. Half the time we call, half the time we fold. But if he checks, we're just going to take that free showdown. So against a GTO player, we're going to be we're going to be much more conservative, more cautious with our bets. We don't really have a good hand. And again, a GTO player is likely going to be calling with pair with some draws on that flop. So, and he's going to make it much harder for us to call. So if we bet, you can see that he's calling with sets. He's raising with 2 pair and over pair. He's got some of those, but he's calling with sets and top pair, some pocket pair below top card. The middle pair, he looks like he's mostly calling. He's got, 8% is our flush draws, 9% are open-ended straights, and you've got some gut shots. So I think this we're running about even based on just the board and our ranges. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this. If you did, look tomorrow for another one.